Welcome to The Craft. I'm your host, May Globus. This podcast is a collection of intimate conversations on artistry, mastery, and life with talented, passionately curious creatives and entrepreneurs. Most are dear friends, some are those I've admired from afar. I hope you enjoy these conversations, this exploration of the humanity that connects all of us, as much as I do having them. Thank you for being here and for listening. There isn't anything Mikey Scott can't do. The marketing powerhouse has had a successful career in action sports and fashion and lifestyle brands, from being a professional snowboarder to running the global marketing at Herschel Supply for over 6 years. He grew up in Markham, Ontario, with a love for skateboarding, soccer, and his close-knit family. Eventually, he discovered snowboarding and ended up traveling the world as a pro boarder at 16, with sponsorship from Ride, Oakley, Globe, and Endeavor. After action sports, Mikey pivoted quickly into marketing, working his way up to Global Marketing Director at Herschel Supply, VP of Global Marketing for an iconic VF Corporation brand in Antwerp, and now VP of Digital Marketing at a travel company. He also launched an accessories brand, Issues Objects, with his wife Shawna Olsten and several creative partners. In this raw and emotional conversation, we explore what it was like making a discovery about his father when he was 9, not letting trauma define you, the importance of quality versus quantity in life, the 5 pillars he always operates from, his journey in the marketing world and getting after it, what fatherhood means to him, and much more. Please enjoy this conversation with the emotionally intelligent, golden-hearted Mikey Scott, who's one of the good ones. Mikey Scott, welcome to The Craft.
What's going on? How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm really happy you're here.
Yeah, so am I. This is awesome. I'm a long-time listener, first-time sitter.
Thank you. Well, thanks for supporting.
Yeah, of course. Definitely.
Yes, and thanks for sitting.
Yes, exactly. Nice chairs in here.
Yeah, right?
Doing it up
Do you
big
like the mood lighting?
Yeah, it's very moody. I'm into it.
It's very intimate in the studio right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Intimate conversation.
Intimate conversations. Cool, calm, and collected. Here we are.
Here we go. So I was connecting the dots on how I met you. And I actually knew your amazing wife, Shawna, before I even knew you. But we re-met many moons ago when I became really good friends with your close friends, Dixon and Jordy. And
the guys.
The guys, the homies.
Yeah, the homies.
Yes.
Those guys are day one. Salt of the earth.
Mm-hmm. Good men. And yeah, so we've known each other for a long time. But I do remember about 3 or 4 years ago, and we were chatting about this last night. It was sometime after you left Herschel. We decided to go for a quick catch-up lunch, and we went to Burgoo on Main.
Yeah, it's a good place.
I think we were catching up over grilled cheese sandwiches on your suggestion.
Probably tomato soup too.
Yes,
Yeah.
there was tomato soup.
Yeah, it's the ultimate soul food when you're trying to find yourself, right? You just go back to the original of what makes me feel good in a time of craziness.
Mm-hmm. When you're in an existential crisis.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Grilled
Something there of just kind of like connecting with people and refiguring out like the world was crazy after that happened for me. And it was just a little bit of trying to understand, really just work through stuff. And there's nothing like just connecting with people. And, you know, obviously I've always looked at what you've been up to and where you've been and, you know, who you know and who I know. And I'm like, how did we not cross paths earlier?
I know.
You know?
I know. But yeah, no, that was a really special moment. And we got into a super, super deep conversation. And we'll put a pin on this and come back to it. But we shared a very similar discovery about our fathers. And I feel that's the moment we bonded on another level.
Yeah, yeah. It's wild. It was, it's cool to see, you know, that you're not alone in this. And it feels to me like there's many people that go through things. And when you start to share and be a bit more vulnerable about where you're at and who you are and what you're about, you either attract similar people or you seem to connect with people on a different wavelength.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about life and connection.
Here we are.
Here we are. So you were born in and raised in Markham, Ontario, which is outside of Toronto.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I always say I'm from Toronto, and then when people are like, me too, I'm like, uh-oh. And
They're
they're
like,
like,
go another level deeper.
yeah, they're like, whereabouts? And they actually say a legit Toronto address. And I'm like,
Hmm.
Markham. And they're like, that's not Toronto. And I'm like, I know, but I don't know where you're from. So it's way easier. But
Mm.
Markham was like farmlands, and now it's like a tech capital of
No
like
way.
being in Ontario. It's this place where all the farmlands was cheap. People set up big companies and ran it through there. But when I grew up there, it was just kind of like car dealerships and a mall. And we used to skate everywhere we could. We could find pavement and just get after it.
Hmm. And I heard it has good food as well.
There's so much good food. It was like this coming of all these different types of people that came together, right? It was like you had it was labeled as like Asian court, which was just like you could go there and get everything from, without traveling, find the best technology.
Mm.
You could also go to, like the Italian side of it, which was more in Unionville, and get great pasta. You could go down to just the normal, I guess, normal place and just get good pizzas, and everything was like 2 for 1 and 3 for 1 pizzas. And yeah, it was really easy just to go get good food. And I'd like to go back there at some point, but I was back there about 10 years ago and I didn't even really recognize it. I have friends that have stayed there, and they pretty much live in like what used to be like these cornfields.
No way. And
Yeah,
it's all
so
developed out.
it's totally developed. So Markham and Stouffville and this wider urban sprawl is kind of getting filled in, which is either a sign of age or growth.
Yeah, yeah. When I was in Toronto in the fall, I went to Hamilton to visit some friends. And I remember someone telling me like it was like kind of like the butthole of Ontario.
It's actually the
I was
armpit.
Like, the armpit.
It's the armpit of Ontario.
Okay.
Which I don't know if that's because it gets. I don't even know why. I have no clue why. I was going to make something up on the spot, but that's just me trying to be funny. So I have no clue.
Yeah. And when we were there, I was like, well, it seems like it's kind of cool. There's some breweries and it doesn't seem too much like an armpit. So I think same thing. It's just getting developed out and probably be a place where people are going to be living.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I've had a friend, John Roth, that was living there as well. So he bought a building, put a haircutting barbershop in the bottom, and then skate shop in the bottom of that, and it's pretty cool. So seeing that John's there and had spent some time, and he's now since more on this side of Canada. But yeah, I've known people, and we travel out there and go skate at this place, Beasley's, which was just like this little skate bowl, and it was always interesting to try to get there once one person in our crew had a license, which I never did. I got my license at 19, so I was like, I don't know if it was lazy or if it was just smart, but it worked out for me. It worked out.
So what were you like? Little Mikey.
Just running deals. I didn't grow up with much in terms of like everyone around me tried their best, but I didn't have, maybe I didn't have like the new skateboard all the time, but I got a skateboard. And then before it got too messed up, I'd sell it to a friend so I could subsidize getting a new one. Or I didn't have new snowboards. So I would get a snowboard and then I would sell it to another friend to subsidize getting a new one. And then I would do another deal on the side to go try to find some more money to go do something else. But everyone around me tried their best, and I was always fortunate. And I was always outside. Skating was like my thing. And then I learned how to snowboard on a single ski in my friend's backyard, like putting one foot behind the other. And I was like, this is pretty cool.
Like, I could do this.
Yeah. This was like when snowboarding, I'm going to age myself, which is fine. I'm happy where I'm at. But I think looking at it from now, it's like everyone skied, so I wanted to go snowboarding. And I actually just wanted to skateboard in the winter. And it was like the underground parking lots were so cold, I couldn't take it on a skateboard. So I learned snowboarding. I guess prior to that, I was in a lot of team sports, right? So I was in like soccer, so much soccer. And I moved all the way from doing like the center forward running and scoring goals to like, let me go back a step. And let me go back a step where it's like, I would set those people up. I'd kick the ball down the field and then they would get the goals. And I was like, let me set this up. And I'd go back again. I'm like, I want to be the defense. And then from defense, it was like nobody could get by. I just want to take them down, get the ball up the field. And then I was like, wait, if I could be the goalie, I could kind of like help control this game. So I kind of moved back And I was in this place where I was, probably, I remember doing cartwheels in the net sometimes. And then a ball would go in and I'd get back in the game. So I was a little bit of like a daydreamer, but I was definitely passionate about sports and ended soccer the minute I found actual skateboarding.
Yeah.
Met some great friends, getting into individual sports. Yeah, I've always enjoyed that even within a career of hiring like a competitive athlete, because you know that the resilience and the trying and the nonstop, going at it, don't stop, keep trying, try something different. With skateboarding, it was like totally that. Same thing with snowboarding. And I was always pretty tall, so I would always get injured. So when I was sitting still, I was scheming on how to get some money to get something new. Or I was sitting still because I was injured and I was trying to figure out how I could stay busy. So I don't think I was too heavy at sitting still, but I think if you ask my parents, I'd be like really good at sleeping. Like 14-hour sleeps, like
Oh, wow.
crushing it.
Well, I guess if you're that active.
Yeah, exactly. It was when I was up, and when I was sleeping, I was really sleeping. So now having a kid, for me, I'm like, whoa, I used to do that.
Well, it's kind of good that you front loaded your sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't get much. It's actually, I've been reading, I don't remember the name of it, but I started reading this about 2 weeks ago, just this book on sleep and the importance of it. Because like I can get by on 3 hours every day.
But you're not supposed to.
No, but I'm not supposed to. So I'm like, I wonder what it's like to get 8 consistently. I wonder who I'd be, what I'd be thinking, what would that be like? I can get by on 3 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think most pro athletes, from what I've read, get at least 9.
Yeah, I bet. You got to let your body calm down, right? But
it needs to restore in that time.
Exactly. So I never did that. I never, at a certain point it was like sport, then more into, school, and then career.
Yeah.
But I was going for it as a kid, that's for sure.
What were your parents like?
They were pretty cool. Yeah, it was like I grew up with, I have 2 sisters, mom and a dad, and I grew up in Markham, and we were pretty much just, my sisters are about 10 years older than me. So for me, I was always like the youngest in the family. So there wasn't too many dinner table conversations because my parents split up. And then I would spend time with my dad. I'd spend time with my mom, but I always had my sisters with me like all the time. And it's cool because, you always had someone looking out for you. And it was that feeling of like being protected or being, cared for or being guided and also being tortured, like straight up.
Well, naturally, you're the youngest.
Yeah. I used to get like rolled across the kitchen floor with like eggs in my pants.
What?
I used to get like wedgied from the banister. Like I had like these little torturing things that I was like, this is devastating now that I think about it. But once I got big enough, I laid a beat down on both my sisters and they stopped doing that. But no, it was good. It was really good. It was like cottages and swimming, fishing. Yeah, it was pretty good. It's pretty good.
How would you describe your mom?
My mom is like day in, day out, hard worker. Just like go for it. Like can't stop, won't stop. Has had both of her hips replaced. She like landscapes. That was her one thing that, she was like trying to make ends meet. And when she got laid off as being like a personal assistant for, I guess like more of an executive assistant, there she was, talking to one of her friends, and her friend was like, well, like, what would you do if you could do anything and you didn't have to worry about money? And she was like, gardening. I just want to do landscaping. And like our house it was pretty good when we were growing up. It was like this little detached home, but our gardens were never crazy good. But the minute my mom spent full time on it and started going for it, so it was crazy. She's been running that. She's, mid-70s, been running that business for 25 years. She gardens in like Gucci and, anything at the secondhand store she can run into, and probably where I get the wear leopard print every once in a while.
Yes, eclectic style.
Yeah. She's like a style, just totally. Wicked photos from way back in the day where she used to be a model, and she was just, my hero. She's great.
And a nurturer, it seems like, to be someone who can nurture gardens like that for a very, very long time. I feel like you need to have a natural touch for it.
Yeah, and not afraid to get her hands dirty. So that side was like really interesting to see someone
Yeah.
just like kicked and then got up and just went for it.
Mm,
Pretty cool.
that is really cool.
Yeah.
She sounds wonderful.
Yeah, she's a nice lady.
Yeah. Let's go back to the story about fathers.
Mm-hmm.
You were told the truth about yours when you were 9.
Mm-hmm. That for me was interesting. It was like, I remember sitting in the food court in this mall, and my dad was like, "Hey, I got to tell you something." I was like, "All right, cool." I was like playing video games, and he's like, "Hey, so just so you know, I'm not your dad technically, but the minute I saw you born, I wanted to hate you, but I couldn't. You're too beautiful. So I wanted to be, your." Yeah, it was like, I want to be your dad. So it was to try to, absorb that. It was like in one ear, out the other.
Mm.
Didn't know what to think.
How do you feel about it now?
I think I'm just like looking at it from from a perspective of being a dad and just, you know, just you're wired. Like you're either wired like you're in or you're out. And it's a pretty easy choice, meaning that you have to be accountable and you're with it, or like you're out and you just run. And my dad didn't run. It was great. And I was like, oh, I don't even know what that means, but I'm just gonna go play arcade games because you're straight up, you're just my dad. Like that's you're all I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think what that means for me now being a dad is that it's just like show up. I'm just like stay present, show up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it was no, it's tough to think about because it's just super emotional, you know. But when someone says like, "Ah, like I wanted to hate you because of the circumstance, but I looked down and I just fell in love with you," and I was just like, 30 years later, I'm like, "Thank you."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can look back at that, and it's so nice that you had that net of love, even though there wasn't any biological blood.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that for me, when I had certain things happen from that I think just naturally happened. It's like I've lived out in Vancouver for over 20 years. I'm 41. Like it takes, there's something different. I don't feel like I'm running from something, but I didn't feel this natural attachment.
Mm.
But I didn't notice that till I was like 25. And then like, maybe like 3 or 4 years after that, I was like, I don't know like what this is. I don't understand it. Like I could be away for it for a while. Is that natural? Like, I don't know like what it is.
Mm.
But I think the more I kind of went into it, it was just a story I told myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this is like, it's not my family, but it is because it's like who I was raised by, circumstances I entered the world, and the ability for me to appreciate the chance I'm given and make the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty sick,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how I came in here, it was like I had people around me that loved me and provided for me and gave me opportunity. And, I, I, I didn't have, a childhood that was super hard, but I probably made it a bit harder than I needed to just to kind of get motivated by that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And, you and I were talking yesterday about, when these things happen in your life, you can choose to have it affect you, or, you can let it not define you. We talked about it shaping you, obviously, but it doesn't have to define who you are.
No, it's okay to let feelings in, right? I think this is like a perfect 5 years of like mental health actually being a positive thing. I think in the past it may have been shaped differently, but all I've seen is people be more authentically themselves and more authentically not themselves. There's not as much of a middle ground as there used to be.
Yeah.
You know, you're either seeing like the masked, shaped, curated side, which is maybe an evolution of social media and digital existence, versus the physical. And there's something there about, you know, just being okay with it. And it's okay if something crazy happens to you. You can be a victim. It's okay. But like, you step through the door on that, and you got to be accountable and then do something about it. And you have the ability to kind of, you know, I think it's more just about creating the opening, or creating the space, or creating that possibility for something to happen. And, you know, your mind's a powerful thing. It can like whoop you.
It really can.
You know?
And I mean, too, you can choose to like block these traumatic things that happen to you, or these, you know, these traumatic discoveries, or you can learn to process them.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's exactly what it is. It's just like, you know, you're asking me simple questions, but they're deep.
They really, really are. Yeah, I know. I definitely feel you on that story. You know, having had almost the exact same conversation, but with my mom. And my mom, you were 9, right?
Yep.
I was 9 as well. And my mother sat me down because my grandmother had come to visit me from LA and had given me this beaded bracelet that said Deborah on it. And I was just like, oh, thanks, Grandma. And I went up to my mom. I'm like, look what Grandma got me. And my mom, her eyes went wide, and she pulled me aside. She said, I have to tell you 2 things today. She said, your real name is not May, it's Deborah. And the man that you think is your father is your stepfather. And I remember kind of being like you, like, oh, okay. Like, how do you process that at 9?
Yeah.
And obviously there's way more of a story in there, but yes, like that feeling of love that you speak of from your father, even though he wasn't of your blood. I felt that with my grandfather. My grandfather is where I get my last name Globus from, but he's my step grandpa. But he loved me, and I could feel that love even though he wasn't of my blood and I wasn't of his. So I know how important that feels, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's where there was something about that in working through that, where I realized I'd spend so much time with friends because I had started, initiated, built that relationship. You know, it was whole. So like, no surprises.
You're a good man, Mikey Scott. Yeah, you truly are.
So in working through that, it was really just about, you know, don't read between the lines. Like, take it at the value that you have it in front of you. You know, like, things can be very simple. If you don't overanalyze things, you take them as they come to you. You don't, you know, think of people with ulterior motives. And I think that's where there's this balance of trusting people right away, or getting people to earn your trust on different decisions that you have. How big is the decision? Can you just trust people right away until they do you wrong and then never let them go back? Or do you never trust someone until they earn your trust, in which case you have to give them something to earn your trust that you place value on that may not be that valuable to them? So that dynamic of friends and importance and family and acceptance was like this it was really interesting to break down and put back together and be like, it's like pretty simple. That's my dad, that's my mom, that's my sisters, these are my friends. That's that. You know, but you unpack that and you're like, I don't know. It feels like when you unpack that, there's all these things that you've attached. And in reality, it's just stuff you've made up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the things that we tell ourselves to survive.
Yeah,
Really,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
It is a really interesting process as an adult, looking back on all of those things and pulling those layers back.
Totally.
It's a scary thing to do for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But sometimes when you not sometimes, all the time when you get to the other side of it, you're like, wow. And then you love yourself a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Just like life is, constantly throwing first world problems at me. I'll be okay. And even the ones that are very near and dear and very affecting me, I know I can get through them. It's just kind of letting it in, processing it, setting a plan and working through it.
Yeah.
And not letting it like dwell or, anything that way. But I think that's kind of like, if you're good, then you can be good for other people around you. But if you're not good, it's like, it's not going to work.
It is not going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And you have to let people love you too,
yeah, that too.
right?
That
yeah.
too.
That's why it's so important to have, your family around you, or whether that's a chosen family. Everyone's situation is really different. But yeah, to have people around you that love you and to let that in makes a world of difference when you're going through something.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Let's go back to your teenage years. And you were a sponsored snowboarder for a number of years at a young age. You were backed by Ride, Oakley, Globe, Endeavor. You met a lot of your close homies like John Roth. You mentioned him earlier. And you were traveling the world at 16. Tell me about this experience and how it changed your life perspective.
Yeah, it was it was more about, for me in the early days, was like not necessarily how can I get more, but I was like, I really enjoy this. I'm freezing. So I really enjoy this. I'm freezing outside. I need a new jacket. There's a contest. I know a couple tricks. I'm going to try to do this. Oh shit, I actually won that. Like, okay, cool. Well, I got a new jacket. Okay, so there's something interesting here. I was able to do what I really enjoyed and be compensated for that while still being celebrated in a group of people. I was like, this is sick. So when I snowboarded, it was like 4 other people on the hill. And if you didn't know them, you looked across and you had a nod. They knew that you snowboarded. You knew that, that you snowboarded, and you had this bond, right? Nowadays, it's like skiing's almost becoming cooler because everyone's parents snowboard. They're like, I don't want to really be that, right? But, and it's in the Olympics and yada, yada on that. But the side there for when I grew up, it was just on like a 400-foot hill. You could walk up it as fast as you could, take the chairlift. And I just grew up riding half pipe, and that was kind of the thing, and was able to get a couple sponsors. And then I remember I won this contest, and they're like, okay, now you can go to Finland. And I was like, oh, like my dad's Finnish. That'd be cool. Like, that's wild. Maybe I could go do that. Okay, cool. And they're like, for this much money. And I was like, ugh, how am I going to do this? And then my mom just busted her ass, came up with the money with my grandma. And I was like, okay, here we go. I'm going to Finland. I'm 16 years old. And then I get on like the airplane, and I'm like, some of these people are on my wall, like totally looking at it and saying, oh my gosh, that's Trevor Andrew. Oh my gosh, this is this kid, Chris Duffy. Oh my gosh, this is, and just like Jesse Fox. And I saw him snowboard over here. He's in the age category up. And I'm just like watching the world go around. And then I remember just being like, okay, whatever, I'm going in. I'm just going to go talk to these guys, say what's up. And it was just immediate acceptance. And it was like, that's cool. So that compounded into some more world travel. It was like 16 years old, seeing armed guards at the Finnish, the airport in Helsinki. I remember when armed guards were a big thing after 9/11. And I was like, I had that a while ago. There was like people almost smoking on our airplanes. It was like raw, right? so going from Finland to being able to travel across Europe, obviously Canada, I had lots of different friends. We moved from coast to coast and snowboarded and tried to stretch the seasons longer. In Ontario, it's like maybe like December until March. And then out in Vancouver, that goes all the way till like June. You can get on the glacier. So it was this traveling, this camaraderie, a little bit of money that came in from it, but it was mostly like, it was fun. It was great. But I look back and I'm like, if I didn't have some of these distractions, I wonder. But I don't want to change anything, but I just wonder. I'm like, I wonder what. So it was a lot of injuries, a lot of distractions, and a lot of fun. It was really cool.
Memories.
Yeah.
You can take those with you. That's awesome. Yeah, and you were saying to me that you weren't always the best snowboarder, but you knew how to build relationships, work hard, and provide value, which I thought was so interesting.
Yeah, that was it. Where I was like, look, I can just be myself, right? I really enjoy talking to people. I've been blessed with a group of friends that I've been able to grow old with. Anyone I meet, like I'll talk someone up in the grocery store, no problem. So you put me in a place where I have like something to share with someone and we're bonded on something as strong as snowboarding or skateboarding or these things, it's on, like we're ready. I'm with it. So I think it was really about that side of, being able to go snowboarding with these types of people and where were we going? What was the question? It was about...
Yeah, it was about
providing value, not really being that good. Okay, yes. yes, not really being that good. I knew enough to get the job done. And snowboarding is interesting because if you look at Olympians, you look at a lot of these people that are really, really good, they're a little bit shorter. I'm like just below 6'4". Okay, so there's a lot of limbs flying around. So it's tough to make things look good. And I was always focused more on quality versus quantity. So maybe I didn't have all the tricks, but the tricks that I had were like it. It was good. And I always knew how to do that in front of a camera or a video camera. And I always knew how to put that on when it was, because it was like, it wasn't necessarily a business, but it was something for me where I was able to I had no other choice. I couldn't afford it. So, okay, I got to perform a little bit here so that I get to go travel the world. Oh, woe is me. Give me a break. If I can go get some photos, enjoy doing it with great people, organize trips, spend time on that, film in videos with some of my heroes, take photos with some of my heroes, meet the people behind the magazines, end up working with them later on in life. And just all from this thing that I enjoyed doing, I was like, you don't have to be the best. And what the hell is the best anyways?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I was in Germany with Travis Rice before he became a big deal. I was in Finland with Trevor Andrews, as most people know him as Gucci Ghost and all these. It's just interesting over time how people have, and all those people are just themselves, but they're just good at what they do. And I was alongside of them, and I'm still me.
Yeah.
Just a little bit older.
And you were able to parlay all of that experience, the learnings, the connections into a very successful marketing career. You were first at No Limits, Quicksilver, Bell Media, and then you became the global marketing director for Herschel Supply when it just launched.
Yeah, that was cool. It was a lot of I got started at No Limits because I had gone to school and I had graduated, and I met this guy, Des Price, real nice guy. And he was like, yeah, I need an assistant. And I was like, I'm broke. I'll do anything. I remember doing expense reports for him with bags of shot glasses. I'll do anything. And I get to go snowboarding. Yes, I'm in. So after a while, at No Limits, I think I did 4 years there or something. Des had moved on. I remember it was the first career moment where it was the day Des quit. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to take on all his stuff. And then I was like, wait. I remember I was like, I'm going to quit too. I'm going to quit unless I get his job. I was like, here we go. Boom, went in, typed up my resignation. I quit too. They're like, what do you mean? It's like, I quit unless I get Dez's job. I've been doing it for a bit. Sure, he has more experience, but I can grow into this. Here's my proposal. Here's the salary. Here's this. Here's that. Here's the duties. And I can start right now. And they're just like, but you already work here. And I was like, no, I don't. I just quit. And I was like, cheaper, faster, more efficient than whatever else you're going to find out there. So once again, it was like, there might have been better people, but it was like I saw the opening and I was like, boom, I'm in. So, got a raise and was able to do some things there and pay off some student loans, and that was great. Moved from there into working at DC, which was owned by Quicksilver. Had a good run there. It's pretty quick, but it was like I was doing things where, we got voted of having the best skate team. We got voted having the best snowboard team. And once again, it wasn't about having the best. It was just recognizing talent, giving opportunity to those who, it's like you can't have a team full of 15 people and expect them each to kind of go for it. It's like, well, what if we focused on quality instead of quantity? And really, as a Canadian, Canada's not that big in the grand scheme of things. And I learned that through global travel. Like Canada was like an account. It's a very important account for some businesses, but it's not its own thing, right? So I was like, okay, cool. So let's get, instead of 15 skateboarders and 15 snowboarders, let's get 5 and let's pay them and let's give them a chance. Let's give them a travel budget and let's get all their other sponsors to do the same thing. And let's give these kids a chance, because you get $500 a month from one company and no one else is paying you. That company's just paying your rent. You're not going to do much different unless you go for it and take out a line of credit, or you got rich parents, or you got some other juice that I don't know about, right? So did that. It was not a popular decision, but I was like, whatever, this is my chance, and I'm going to try to do this. And for me, it was like I got to see people who were going. I still watch videos on Thrasher of kids that I used to sponsor. I signed this kid's first check. I'm like, okay, this worked. Or on snowboarding, there's this girl, Jess Kimura, who's a fabulous snowboarder, super, super amazing individual, meaning that she didn't come from shit, and she's making something of it right now. She just had a film called Learning to Drown, which is a total tearjerker. You should watch that one. But it's just giving people a chance, and I felt like I had a chance. So this industry that gave me so much, I got to pass that on. The worst thing I could do is not go work in that industry. Because then I would just be sitting around the water cooler talking about all this other stuff that no one gets. So I get the chance to go get paid to go do what I like again. And I'm in that, and I'm giving people chances, and I'm making some decisions for some bigger companies, from a budget to 200,000 to 3 million to 10 million to 50 million. It's there's some very simple decision making that happens inside of those that had gone from no limits to, no limits was like squeezing blood from a rock. There was no money. But it was give this snowboarder 5 snowboards, let her go sell them. Let her do something else. Get her to the next contest. She wins it. She gets this. Give this skate kid, $500 a month, and then go call all of his other sponsors and be like, I'm paying him. You got to pay him.
Yeah.
Put some pressure on it. Give this kid a chance. So that was more the action sports side, but that started to kind of become a little bit interesting with Bell Media, right? So now Bell Media was still sport, but it was corporate sport, right? And this guy that I had developed a friendship with over time, Matt Houghton, who I still consider to be a near and dear, great friend today. He was over there, and he was coming from Snowboard Canada, went over into MSN, which then got turned into Bell Media, started a sports property, got to hire a bunch of his friends. I was writing articles, 1 a week for 5 years. It was wrote 400 articles, learned how to become a little bit of a journalist, but all I did again was write articles about my friends. It's not so hard. But pretty cool. I get paid. And then when social media kind of came to, it was this opportunity to kind of bring that into a digital space past a blog. And I was like, this is totally learning, creative. There's no rules. This is back when Facebook was fan gates, And so that's No Limits into Quicksilver into Bell Media, and then a couple of these things started to fall apart. DC went direct, shut down their Canadian office. No Limits, I guess that one doesn't really matter because it's before DC, but Bell Media ran out of time to make this sports thing a really big thing. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I got a couple checks here. So what am I going to do with all this? And I started a little consulting company. And then once again, went to all my friends, was like, hey, let's all go do a blog here and turn it into a little media property. And then on the back end of it was a business. And it was a little tab in the top right corner. But we had all this traffic coming. And then referral started to come in. So I got to work with Nike and Red Bull and, pretty cool companies.
Yeah.
But
that was Beneath?
Yeah, that was Beneath. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, which is actually, the name went up for auction, and then Des actually renamed his company Beneath.
No way.
Yeah, so he has a different way of saying what its value is at that company than what I did. Ours was just the original alternative to traditional media. So it was like everyone else over here, we're on the other side.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then I ended up pitching. One of the snowboarders that I had sponsored way back in the day was this guy, Colton Showers. And he ended up working for another individual. And then I asked him what he's been up to, and he showed me some of the product. And I was like, this is cool. And then all of a sudden my wife came home one day, and she was going on a trip, and she had this wicked camo luggage. And I was like, it's way better than the red luggage that I have, Dakine luggage. I was like, what is this? She started talking. So I reached out to Colton. He graciously got me a meeting set up with one of the founders of the company he was working for. Went in, pitched them on an idea. But before I did that, I did my research, and I was like, social media is exploding. I understand their business. I'm going to go get all the social handles. I'm going to get Herschel Supply, Herschel on Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, everything, every platform. Went in. Hey guys, here's an idea for a digital proposal. I want to run your social media, and I have all your accounts. And I remember, the one founder who was like, what the hell? You can't have that. And I was like, no, this is like for you. And like, kind of like a slide it across the table moment, like someone needs to be doing this, right? So they're like, oh, okay. But I had experience doing wholesale, had experience doing other stuff. And then it kind of, what I pitched them on was just digital media. What I ended up doing was like a marketing director role, which was budget, which was content, which was communications, which was, it eventually grew into a team of almost 30 people, but it needed 30 people. It was a super fast growth, from
very fast.
Yeah. From like, inside of 7 years, it was like 2 million to 180. It was like wild, so that was like a very interesting career path to lead up to, once again, create an opening.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and I'm still doing that. I'm still creating openings for growth. It's just now I can do it at different size companies. And, Herschel was like lightning in a bottle. It was crazy.
Yeah. We were talking about it being like the perfect storm of everything at that time leading to the success. I'm curious to know, were you given a lot of space to create and innovate with the brand, and also I know you're not a designer, but like design too within the company?
Both the founders in the early days, so there's 3 brothers, but both the 2 that worked directly in the business at the beginning, they're creative guys as well. So it was like, it was super early, really scrappy. Hey, let's try this. Hey, let's try that. That didn't work. This one worked. Throw money at it, right? It was like really loose. And then over time, it started to get tightened up because I wasn't asking for $5 or 500 or $5,000 or 50. It was like, here's a program for $500,000. It's going to make us this much money. Here's where we're going to go with it. But I was usually given a fair amount of autonomy. And both the brothers, one was more in product, the other one was more in sales and operations. But together they were like the yin and yang. The only difficult part there was that I was the only person in the company that reported to 2 brothers. So I was often either marginalizing one or both, because they're a yin and yang, right? Not to say they don't agree, they totally do. But more than often during my time there, it was challenging because I would have to learn how to communicate and sell something on a wider perspective than just my opinion. You know, it was like your opinion can count for a certain amount of time. But when you're in control of this many people, this type of a budget, this scale and fast growth of a brand, it's like, you know, it shouldn't be like a bunch of balls that you're juggling in the air. It should be more of like you're developing a system and a process and how that works. And I think that, you know, for me, in my time being there, you know, just over 6 years, it was like, yeah, an MBA.
Yeah.
It's killer. Got to travel the world. You know, it's like Paris 4 times a year, New York 4 times a year, Vegas 4 times a year, Hong Kong 4 times a year. You know, like Philippines, go across Europe, you know, Italy. And it was so cool. And I had a full owner-operator syndrome when I was there. I thought it was mine. You know, I thought it was like one of the brothers. I was like, hey, this is it. Guys, we can do this. And they always treated me like that, you know. And then I think at a certain point, our goals just weren't aligned.
Yeah. Or
at least maybe I changed and what was important to me. And that was, I think, you know, the right time to exit and call it. And it was a little bit of a difficult exit, but it was, you know, good things have happened since then. So I wouldn't change much, but I want to remember that it happened so it never happens again.
Yeah. What did you learn most about who you are from your time there?
I learned that don't let your job define who you are. I got lost. You know, it was like the minute that I wasn't at Herschel, I wasn't myself anymore, which is complete bullshit. I've always been the same guy. I'm always Mikey Scott. That's it. You know, for better or for worse, you don't like it, beat it. You're into it, let's hang out. But being able to have the confidence there, I would say, you know, if you can't make everyone happy as well. And I learned that as the company went from, I was like the 12th person to get hired at the company. And then at the end, there was over 300. Right. So I learned that you can't make everyone happy, and that's okay. And it's not about being a people pleaser, and it's not about being nice. Often niceness gets mistaken for weakness. And I was saying this to you yesterday, like, I'll eat anyone's food anytime. But it took me a while to realize that I don't have to. I don't have to. Right? So my time at Herschel was just like, if something fell, you know, I lost someone in the team, I would take on their job. That's old Mikey. New Mikey would say, okay, great. We got to pitch in. We got to share. We got to pick this up. We're going to start to rehire. Here's the resource plan. Here's the budget. Here's the timeline. Here's the job description. Bang, let's go. That's new me. But during that time, it was just like wild.
Yeah.
It's just like going through it and being able to collaborate with so many different creative people. I mean, I still keep in contact with, I would say, like a pretty tight squad of people there, mostly because that's all who I know that's there. But they've got incredible people working at the company. And, you know, I think most importantly, it was like I had huge expectations for how that was supposed to change my life. But in reality, it's like, it did change my life.
Yeah.
You know, there's different things there where, like I said, owner operator, it's like, I got the results because I was bought in. Would have got a tattoo if I had any, you know? I don't look back on it as a negative. I look back on it as such a positive, such a crazy experience. But there's a couple things that I need to make sure that I don't forget so that I don't fall into that again. And that for me is, I think, how I'm able to achieve more of a work-life balance, achieve more of a satisfaction of my job, and a certain amount of accountability that I can stomach, that I can do good with. And that, you know, people are just people. It's not like any of the three brothers that were involved had all the answers. They were in the same boat as me. We were trying our best. But I had this, like, you know, got to make these guys happy. Got to make the head of this department happy. You got to make this person happy. You got to make that. It's like, no, I don't. I don't. I need to make sure that I can be accountable to what I'm an expert at. And
to yourself.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I was fucking good. Really good. And it took me a while to look back after that to be like, you know, let the feelings in, be accountable, look forward, be like, all right, let's get at it. Let's go again. Right?
Yeah.
But that was biggest takeaway there was like, owner operator syndrome. I had no clue what that even was.
Yeah, and I do think it takes experience and age to really find your inner compass that you can always come back to rebalance yourself. It's just life teaches you that, right? So
yeah.
And then after Herschel, you ended up taking a VP of global marketing role at a VF Corp brand, and you moved to Antwerp, Belgium.
Yeah, it was really cool. I'd been into Antwerp with Herschel once. One of our distributors is there, a guy I still keep in contact with. Shout out John Peters. Awesome guy. Anyways, the side there was like, I got a call from a recruiter, and I was like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, hey, we're looking for this company. And I was like, isn't that struggling accessories brand that used to be like iconic, like Guess or Tommy Hilfiger? Remember, like before they had the Hadids or Bieber, like 80s iconic, Marciano, like there. This brand was that as well. And it was like, okay, cool. Well, they're like, would you be interested in doing that? I was like, I did this full creative project. Yeah, I would. And this is what I would do with it. And then they came back and they're like, well, we don't want to really do that. And I was like, then I'm out. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And they're like, okay, cool. Boom. 2 months later, I get another phone call. Hey, remember that thing you proposed? What if you could do that? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. You have a brand that's for people of a certain age that's, above 60. I'm saying we go 18 to 30. And that's even a wide gap, right? You have a bunch of creative that's stale. I'm talking about United Colors of Bennington, inclusivity, diversity, young and old mixed together, celebrate humanity, inclusivity, like let's go for it. And then that's what we're about. And that's the creative vision. And then the product comes as a result of that. Okay. And they're like, okay, cool. Well, like, let's do it. Went back and forth, negotiated for a while and got into it. And then I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to sign this on. This is wild. I don't even know what's going on here, but let's do it. And I moved over there about 3 months in advance of my wife moving over, which was like super lonely, like super lonely. Like, I remember my second day there, it was like, all right, we're going to Shanghai. Boom. Okay. All right, we're going to Italy. Okay, we're traveling all these places, but I have nobody to share it with. It was like, that's weird. So I went in there, and over a longer period of time, it was becoming pretty evident that what I had sold in was being scaled back, and it was tough, right? Because I was like, what the hell? I just moved all the way over here to do these things. And, the relationships and the complexity and the matrix reporting structure and the scale of a $500 million brand that's 35 years old, from what I'd come from, was like a 6-year-old brand started by a couple of guys who had other jobs. And this one had better timing, better luck, in my opinion, maybe better people. And I went into this, VF is an incredible organization that's like a huge accelerator for brands. They'd be interesting to see whatever they do with Supreme, but like, Vans, they bought Vans at 300 million. It's like 4 billion.
Wow.
Like they accelerated it. They have Van stores. The leaders of VF is an incredible individual, and having the opportunity to sit down in Shanghai and have a meal with him was like, that was it. That's the nugget, right? The other nugget there was like living in Europe and totally being away from everything and having to reinvent myself was like huge. And then about 6 weeks into being there, and I was still seeing a therapist at this time, it was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm having all these feelings. I don't know what's happening over here. Like culturally, it's way different. I'm like everyone else has got 4 languages in this room. And I'm like the guy who just, has to call the shots in English all the time. I can get by on French. My Flemish is like not existent. My Italian is like, I can order a pizza. And my Mandarin is like rough, so I was like, holy. So after a while, it was really tough because sometimes I was the outsider And I
Yeah.
was coming in at like very high level, and I had to make really rough choices, sharp, fast, aggressive. And I was like, leadership is not a popularity contest.
Mm.
You know, you're coming in to disrupt the 35-year-old business. You have people who have been there for over 10 years or 5 years or 20 years. And you're going to uproot their life. You're going to change everything. And that was a big lesson for me, because it was about moving people from independence to being interdependent. Right? So that thinking of all these siloed departments or all these siloed regions. There was a region in APAC region, you had an EMEA region, and then you had an Americas region. My role was global.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like 450 emails a day. Like, sort through them, do the work, get after it. Centralized team, very small. Regional teams in these markets, very big. Exact opposite of what I had at Herschel. All the centralized team was about 30 people across everything from building stores to, doing the communications, to the branding, to the content, to the copywriting, to the events, everything. A full centralized team. Now I did the exact opposite, decentralized team, right? I went from scrappy process, highly creative, fast, to slow moving, super tough, matrix organization. Nobody reports to you outside of this in these regions, but they report to you on a dotted line.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, a dotted line?
Yeah.
Fill it in. Give me all these people. But then I was like, I don't want all these people. I'm going to learn how to lead by influence and move people from independence to being interdependent, which means basically that what happens over here, you're not isolated from that.
Yeah.
We need to sit at a table together, make decisions collectively, and move forward and be a believer in the big strategy.
And there was resistance to that cohesion? Yeah.
Tons of region.
Yeah.
Tons of it. Because once again, it's like change is hard. Change is wild and change is hard. So having that conversation with people and starting to get a bit of a track record, and that was a role that was just under 2 years, and it was like warp speed I was running at. Yeah. And there was other people in the organization that were new that were running at warp speed, but the business wasn't running at warp speed, So I met lots of great people, incredibly talented in this big VF monster. I started to negotiate my way out of that brand that I was in, where I was like, I got to go over to like North Face or Vans or something that is a bit more of like, if the brand that I'm at is not going to do this, then I'm not going to be at the brand, because I'm not the best person for it. You can find better people. Here's what I'm motivated by. I don't want to block someone else's opportunity. Yeah. I'm going to try to get out of here.
And if it's not a fit for either side,
totally,
there's no point in forcing it.
That's it. Exactly. So after a while, it was like, getting an executive position in some of these larger companies isn't an overnight decision. And it's actually not my decision. Right. So interviewed a couple different places, inside VF, outside of VF. At the end of it was like, this just isn't working. Got a check and just traveled our asses off with my wife. And I should say that all that in under 2 years, but the real crazy part was about 6 weeks after being there, I was just walking around in Antwerp, and Antwerp's awesome. It's like a city village. It's like a Dries store next to a Prada store, next to a Raf store. And you might run into Dries or Raf on the street walking. And like, that's the same feeling I used to get. Yeah, it's the same feeling I used to get with working at DC and like walking down the hall and bumping into Danny Way and being like, like just like being totally stuck up against the wall. It's like, holy shit. Same thing happened in fashion there. It was just like, I had a good friend, Bob, who runs the store Veer, and like his best friend is like Raf. And I was like, what? Like, heroes in fashion or heroes in sport, but they're just regular people doing their job, doing their best. Sure, they're designed differently. That's what makes them special, but they're also incredibly pointed at their opinion, which makes other people look at it and go, if they're that serious about it, I want to be in, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So 6 weeks after being there, my wife calls me and she's like, I'm pregnant. I was like, oh, like just moved here. We had plans to go, you know, travel and do all these things, but all that stuff didn't matter. I was like the loudest scream and the most beer drank by myself in Antwerp. And like, there's good beer there. There's a lot of it too.
That's what I hear. And Willow was born there.
Yeah. My little son Willow was born, which my wife's a champion, you know, being a mother and giving birth, and the system and how it's set up over there is like, you just get whooped by taxes. But if you do something like that, like the process for not only giving birth, but leading up to that was so, you know, so more advanced and focused on humanity than it was over here in Canada. And I was like, wow, maybe that's why we pay 50% tax.
Yeah.
You
For
know?
all the social programs that happen out there.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. We can take advantage of a bit of that. Like, it's okay. It's okay. And then we just started traveling. It's like traveling. And it was like, that's what made it okay. It's like, I got numb at my job and I went in there and did the best that I could, but it wasn't, you know, I resorted back and I was like, I am not this brand. This brand is my job and I'm going to do a fabulous job and the best that I can do at it, but it's not me. So I'm going to make sure that I'm me. I have a son, I have a wife. I want to be a good partner. I want to be a good leader. I want to be a good father. And all that pressure and weight was like, just processing that, even thinking about it of, you know, it didn't come naturally, you know, so having to work through it.
Yeah.
Maybe for some people it comes naturally, but for me, I was like, yo, this is a lot, you know, this is a lot. Like, I don't know anybody here. I'm in this position where, you know, it's something I've aspired to. And I got in the position and I was like, it's not all it's caught up to be. I mean, it's a great opportunity, but maybe it's not for me, especially at this place. But I could only imagine, you know, if I was able to help carry out what I'd sold in, the effects, but I'll never know. I checked the Instagram of that brand last night. It's still not as good as when I was there, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of like dust on there from when I was there.
Little Mikey dust still left.
Exactly. But no, kudos to just personal growth and doing it and being forced. And, you know, if I ever get backed in a corner, I often design things by an accident where I get backed into a corner and I have to make a decision. And then I just, you know, like, time to be accountable.
Yeah, you just make it.
Go.
Like, once you're ready, I feel like you just...
That's it.
You make it, that's it, and you're pivoting. And
that's it.
You're ready for the next challenge, which you guys came back to Vancouver, and now you're in your next career. Let's call it a challenge. It's not a challenge, but you know what I mean. Your next step. You're VP of digital marketing at a travel company.
Yeah. Travel is just like whooped pretty bad in this pandemic, you know. And it was, you know, I was coming back and I was watching the world kind of burn, you know, if you will, to see just things happening. If you had a job in COVID, you were doing pretty good. And I'm not saying it's over. I'm not getting into that like if you had it. But I will say, number one, having a job, like that's a good thing, right? And then number two, what's that job going to be? So I was fortunate enough to have a couple dollars saved to then buy some time to look around and go, what do I want to do? Not like, what can I do? I can do lots of things. I've learned that, you know, I can do almost anything I put my mind to, but what do I want to do? Right. So I was like, okay, cool. Did a little bit of personal discovery. This is back after Herschel. And it was to try to understand these things that were motivating me. And I did an exercise that was about, you know, everything you're afraid of in this circle. And then everything that's the exact opposite of that on the outside of the circle. And then take a step back and which circle are you living in? And I was like, shit, I'm living in this small circle of everything I'm afraid of. Right. I was like, that's a bummer. I'm going to go out here. And just started going out there. And every time I would creep into that circle, I would just get out of there. And sometimes if I got in there and being motivated by fear, wasn't so bad, but it was definitely not as powerful as being motivated by, these things that were more appealing to me. So developing a system of like, these 5 things that were super important to me as I go through any career or as I go through any opportunity, it not only allows me to see an opportunity, but it allows me to just, jump into it and just give her.
Yeah.
Right.
What are the 5?
So number 1 is learning, right? So I got to be in a place where I'm learning. I don't just want to go into a place where I have all the answers, because I don't. That's another thing for me. It's like, I don't have all the answers, but I'll definitely sit at the table, brainstorm, get through it, come up with some strategies, come up with some ideas, and make a bet and be accountable and drive results. That's it, right? Nobody has all the answers. Everyone's trying shit out. That's okay. So that's learning. I want to be able to learn in a role, and also obviously off the base of building, right? So the other one is innovate, right? I don't want to be in a place that's like stuck and not adapt to change. I want to be in a place that's a little bit like needs change, wants to go after it. That for me is a more appealing to be in a faster pace, not just sitting back. So that innovative idea. The other one would be challenge. I want something big and scary. I need to be a little bit more invested. And that's a bit more of what makes me tick. I can't just sit back. It's tough. It's really tough for me. And if I would, then it wouldn't be for long. Right. And I'd come back in and people would be like, well, what's this guy's problem? He was chilling like 2 days ago. And now he's just like going for it. What's up? So the other one would be creative. I am creative. And that took a while to understand. And what is my creativity? I'm not your graphic designer. I'm not entirely your creative director. I'm not the guy that goes in the bottom floor at IKEA, looks at the boxes and says, give me one from that row, give me one from that row. Cool. I'm the guy that sits on the top floor of IKEA, walks the rooms and curates. I'll do that at any furniture store. That's just the easiest one because I know we've all been drawn to IKEA for meatballs or whatever it is.
They're huge
right?
chocolate bars.
Exactly. Exactly. Or glug or whatever it is that they have, right? The side there is just like, my creativity is curation. Like I learned that over time, whereas like I'm not like the white paper sketch guy. I'm like the magazines on the wall, curate the best possible room and having an eye for that. And that also allows me to collaborate with people because I can build teams, right? I can collaborate with people. And then the other one is just confidence, right? I want to be in a place where there's believers. I want to be in a place where people are confident because I'm confident. And my confidence here needs to be in a place that appreciates it, wants it, demands it, and also appreciates and respects it.
Oh, I love that.
Right? So there's that learning, that innovation, that creativity, that challenge, and then the confidence. Those are the things for me when I look at an opportunity. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's my framework. Okay, this opportunity ticks 2 of them. I'm out. It's
all
pretty
5
easy.
have to be there.
They got to be there.
Yeah.
I don't do 4. I don't do 3. Certainly don't do 2 or 1. But like all 5 need to be there. So my current role now is like travel's beat up, borders closed. How do we bring money in? How do we stay up? It's simple. We sell moments to look forward to. That's it, right? It's crazy out there. Nobody should be traveling doing some of the stuff that needs to be done right now. But you can book it, you can secure it, and you can look forward to it. And when you feel safe, when the world's in a place where, you're able to enjoy it, whatever your comfort level is, we'll put you out on a trip and you'll crush it. And it's a little bit different than selling a $100 backpack or a $50 pair of shoes or a $100 pair of shoes. It's like, you want to go spend 25 grand for 2 people to go on a trip? Hit me up. It's the best experience of your life.
Both are a feeling, right?
Yeah, that's it. So I've learned this emotional connection to people, but over the years, I've understood the importance of connection from a consumer level. Doesn't matter what the business thinks, and most businesses are stuck in that. Here's what we want to do. It's like, well, what is a customer looking for? Do you actually have that? Or can you convince the customer that they need this if they're not even looking for it? And that's the digital side for for what I really enjoy right now is that it's like I've been building brand forever.
Right.
I've been running the wholesale side forever.
Yep.
You know, I've been looking at events. I've been building stores. I'm like this like dinosaur who can go, you know, an inch deep and a mile wide. You know, so it's been a while since I've been able to go into a company and help revamp it digitally.
Yeah.
Where I'm like right down to working in Figma on web designs and proofing, all the way up to, you know, tech stacks and front end design and into the strategy for the big company and collaborating across leadership. It's like my hands are dirty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
this
I'm
is your
building.
space. Yeah. This is your space.
Big, huge corporate company, run it all. You know, maybe career suicide for me to say no. But I can certainly tell you that if you have a small business and you want to make it bigger, I'm your guy. That's the easy part for me to now look at and go, yeah, this is scrappy. I'm in.
Yeah.
I can help build this.
Yeah.
But the other side was like the VF complexity. I was like, maybe not my bag. But if there was a small area inside one of those companies where they wanted to innovate, I'm your guy. But I don't need to run it all.
Yeah.
I don't need to like feel that.
And now you know that now.
Yeah, yeah.
Your inner compass is strong.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So hopefully for anyone that's listening, if they're trying to figure out what the hell's going on or what the hell to do, it's like you could try that, or you could invest $500 in a business coach, or you could ask the person that you look up to if you can talk to them once a month, or you could ask your friends what they're up to and start brainstorming, or you could sell your car and build a website and put your brand out there and try to make it work. And if it doesn't, that's okay. You know?
But if you have that inkling, you know, if you want to do something, you have to do it. Whatever that is, whatever that step looks like for you, you just have to do it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. My family always tells me, even my wife, she's like, you should be in sales. I'm like, I am. I sell marketing. You know, I could be Vancouver's #1 real estate agent. I don't know. You know, I could be. But
you do sell marketing. I mean, so many times you've said just listening to you now, you're like, you came into them, you were like, here's my plan. That's you selling.
Yeah, that's it. It's just the confidence as well of being okay with rejection too. You know, when I came back from Europe, it was like I must have talked to 60 companies, and then I hit one right. You know, which is okay. It's like, I think I've applied at, you know, some of Vancouver's biggest companies 25 times.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Like, they know who I am. I'm the mosquito. That's okay. You know? Like I'll get them.
Yeah. Mosquito Mikey.
That's it. I'll get them. I'll get after
Eventually.
it. Totally.
No hiding.
No hiding.
Yeah.
I'll get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Well, just a couple more questions, actually. About 4 more. But you and Shawna have also started something creative on the side called Issues Objects.
Yeah, there's a couple of us involved. There's about 4 of us. And it was really just this idea of, you know, all of us had come from working in fashion. All of us had been at leadership positions, you know, doing everything from creative direction to brand to product to, I'm like, you know, I get to work with 3 incredibly smart people. Sometimes I'm like, what the hell am I doing here again? I'm just like the make it happen.
Yeah.
You know, I'll just make it happen. Okay, cool. What do you want to do? Okay, great. But yeah, Issues Objects was like twofold. It was like issues, meaning like a magazine. When you see a new issue of a magazine, you get excited, right? It's not like one issue of Vogue or one issue of Snowboard Canada or one issue of Monocle or something. It's like, you know, you look forward to something. Oh, there's a new issue. Great. So that premise of issuing product and the piece there was like, what's the issue about? And that's it. It's like, you know, you have to have an issue to solve. So for us, in our first project that we did was, you know, revamping like the full classics of everything we know and the greatest hits of making the world's greatest tote bag, make it on a small run, you know, make a couple hundred of them, sell through them. And that's okay. We don't need to make that again. It solved the issue that we needed. Some of our friends who are, you know, supporters, some of our friends around the world that were supporters, and some people that we don't even know that just started buying it. And we're like, holy shit, like your phone. I don't know if you have Shopify on a phone, but it's like ka-ching. And you're just like, what? Someone bought this? Sick. Like, oh my gosh, we have to ship it to Bangkok. oh my gosh, you have to ship it to London. And that's where we're like, oh, this is a creative muscle, but it's also something where, you know, it served its purpose. We're going to continue to work on what the next issue is, but it's like, you know, it's wild to kind of run your own business and make a physical product, because I've always helped people do that. But to touch and hold and work with something, you truly feel like, you know, the blacksmith in the medieval times. It's like you get to make something and hold it and touch it. And for so long, I worked with companies that did that, but I didn't do it from start to finish that way. I got to work with incredibly talented people in product, smart people in sales and operations, all that other shit. But it's like, you know, this is my first kind of like touch at it, which was pretty fun. Massive pain in the ass, but worth it.
Yeah. You get to take all that experience and now this is yours.
Yeah, that's it. Which is like probably only important to me.
Yeah. Which is great.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
why not?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, you know, screaming from a rooftop, but being super proud of it and also making it real.
Yeah.
You know, take a chance. People don't like it. That's okay. Maybe it was a bad idea.
And now you know.
And now we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, we're good. You know, we got through what we had and faster than we thought. And we did it in a way that we were in control. We felt good about it. And the whole idea was like, you know, every person that's been involved has sat in a boardroom and been involved in a decision that they didn't enjoy. And it may or may not have been for the right reasons. But a lot of what we're doing here is like, we're collectively agreeing on things that we like because we all have a pretty similar mindset. And putting it out into the world and seeing if anyone else has that. And so far it's worked.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the next object to come out.
Yeah.
But also thank you for the bag that you brought for me today. It's going to be my new sound therapy instrument bag.
Get after it, test it, beat it up.
I will.
Kick it down the stairs, do whatever you got to do with it. I've had friends that have used it for everything from carrying wood. It's like the most luxe bag to carry wood, to people that have used it for overnight, to people that have used it for their day-to-day, to people that use it for pregnancy bags, like everything, you know, stuff where I was like, whoa, I didn't think of that. Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting use of it. But, you know,
but why not?
Like, yeah, but why not?
If it's solving your issue.
Exactly.
That's what it's
like,
for.
It's totally it, where it's like, you know, there's something to that where it's also a learning. What I like, where it's like, I had no clue about that, or I did not think of it, or I'm not going to be like, it's not designed for that. That's not the point. We know what we made it for. If other people take it and interpret it as their own, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
As long as it adds value, and fashion is like wildly wasteful. So how can we just make something that's good? And how do we make sure that it's, you know, of value? And let's focus on quality, not quantity. Let's be, you know, sold out, not on sale. And let's do it in something that's, you know, gender inclusive, and let's do it in something that's non-seasonal. Right.
Like
so it's like, it probably won't allow us to pay other people. That's okay. Most of us got jobs. We're just kind of going at this for a fun creative project.
And sometimes you need that as a creative person.
Bang. There you go.
So a few more questions.
Let's do it.
If you were to say anything to your wife, Shawna, right now, in this very moment, what would you tell her?
Love you.
I love it. And I wanted to go back to the notion of fatherhood for my second to last question. What is it that you would like to tell Willow and your little one coming about life?
I want to say something cliche like try your best, but that probably won't hold. That's probably a given, you know? I think there's maybe something along the lines of maybe family first.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
My final question. I ask every guest, with what it is that you do, what is it that you want to leave behind in the world?
Yeah, I thought about this one, right? So I mentioned earlier that it's like I've listened, but I've usually looked at, you know, cracking around the internet and going through and listening to a lot of these podcasts, and I've heard everything from, you know, I like G-Mans, and I think, other people that have been on this, I'm always like, oh, I had no clue. And I like grew up beside them or work with them or I'm involved with them. I think it's like there's something about leaving it better than you found it. Like real simple.
Mm.
So maybe whether it's interactions with people, leave it better than you found it. Say what's up, say hi, make someone's day good. To career, add value and try to make sure that, you're delivering a solid product, whether it's, something that you're directly involved in or you're in a partnership and you're working with other people. And on a personal level, it would probably be, leave it better than you found it would be like, I come from like a broken home. So.
I like that. I like that a lot. Mikey, I adore you, and you know how much I've appreciated your friendship and your support over the years, whether it's with work and career or personal. And when all the Asian hate stuff was happening at the very start of it earlier this year, I remember you sent a text to check in on me and just to tell me that I could count on you and Shawna, and it meant a lot. Yeah, that's who you are, and you're truly one of the good ones. And I just love you.
Love you too. Thanks, May.
Thank you for being here.
All right, see you.
If you enjoyed that last conversation, be sure to check out more episodes of The Craft on Spotify and guest photo galleries on the website at wearethecraft.com. Thanks again for listening.